owned, and you've got that information right in front of you. What did the community prioritise? Evidence-based, and you've got that in front of you. And locally relevant, I kind of hope you've got that in your heads and you understand your communities. So we asked in that engagement with the 500, up to 500 people, we asked them some questions about what they thought should happen or what would be different or what works, but we also asked some questions about how. In fact, a lot of people in the any other comment made comments about how. We had probably about 600 comments that related to how things should happen. So I wanted to draw your attention to this. This isn't about what, it's about how. So authentic and long-lived community leadership and ownership, really important. And I draw your attention to authentic and long-lived. I run a business that's involved with community engagement, so I keep getting hired in at the beginning of things, but actually things work really well if you hang on to that community engagement for the full life of the project and afterwards. Celebrating strengths and assets in the communities, it's a fair challenge that if we are focusing on the negative, it can make both young people and their communities feel either stigmatised or feel negative about themselves. So I think it's really important to celebrate strengths and assets, also to use them in your work. Prioritising long term, and I would suggest that at all levels, from an individual family or a young person to a funding strategy, commissioning strategies, and planning as a city. Thinking in the long term. So as I said, really pleased to see you thinking about 10 years, but that, you might even want to think about 10 years in relation to young people. Spoke to young people about this idea and they looked slightly horrified that we were talking about what would things be like when they were 24. But when I asked young people, it looks at me like that. 24, can't imagine it. Investing early, again, in young people's lives, in their communities, and in organisations is another way of thinking about early investment. This touches on the celebrating strength thing, but by challenging prejudice and stigma, the strongest one from young people about that was stigma around youth, stigma around the perception of youth and who they are. This idea of services and support being a choice, having a wide choice, not just one offer, but multiple offers, and that they're equally accessible to all, financially accessible, geographically accessible, culturally accessible to all people. I'm really struck, this is the third time we've been invited to work in Bristol, which has been great. Really struck by Bristol's differing neighbourhoods, with different feel and cultures and so on. And it's really important to respect that. Our initial brief was to try and capture that. It's actually impossible to capture how each neighbourhood in Bristol is different. It's just all I can say is they really are. So I think it's really important to understand that and come up with goals that are, you're looking for Bristol-wide goals, but they need to sit right in lots of different spaces. Does that make sense? They need to actually you need to do things that will be adaptable to the local community. I don't think I've ever done a piece of work where joined up working didn't come up in the feedback, I don't really know what else to say about it. We all hope for it and it's really hard to do. I think that's all, but and that came from young people especially and parents. And again, this one has come, I suppose, more from the workforce, but also from parents, structuring in now accountability and transparency. So if this strategy disappears into a bureaucratic black hole and is never seen again, you will rightfully have some irritated people on your hands. So it's about opening up that communication and allowing people to see what is happening, the good and the bad. I think people prefer to hear you saying things haven't gone that well and we're not achieving our goals than to hear nothing, actually. So that kind of accountability and transparency is important. I told you I'd be a nightmare for going on, so I'm going to try and speed up. Okay, so you're sat at tables now, which I invited you to sit at tables that feel the most important to you. I think a lot of you struggled with that. I saw a lot of head scratching out there. So you're hopefully sat at a table that means at least something to you. we're going to have, when I finish speaking shortly, we're going to have